Today on the Blockchain Report, Bitcoin's back up around 114K and the headlines are spicier than a gas station burrito. Japan's Metaplanet is raising $1.4 billion to buy even more Bitcoin because apparently the yen is auditioning for a role as the next toilet paper. A new company literally called TREASURY raised $147 million to copy Michael Saylor, which is about as subtle as naming your kid Crypto McPump. And Cantor Fitzgerald launched a gold-protected Bitcoin fund perfect for investors who want Bitcoin exposure but still sleep with their grandpa's Cougarans. All that and more on today's show. Let's go! Good morning, my Bitcoin believers, and welcome back to another episode of the Blockchain Report. I'm Hank Hudson, broadcasting to you live from San Francisco, where the lattes cost more than lunch, and rent costs more than your first car, and every Uber driver has a white paper to pitch you. Now, before we dive into today's circus of charts, ETFs, and everyone's favorite game of will Jerome Powell tank my portfolio before lunch, do yourself a favor and smash that like button the way your grandpa smashes reply all on family emails. And don't forget to follow RoxomTV and yours truly at Hank at RoxomTV, because the charts don't tell the whole story, but punchlines usually do. All right, let's separate the bulls from the bag holders, the diamond hands from the sweaty palms, and figure out who's getting rich and who's still Googling what is liquidity in this morning's market rundown. Let's go. All right, happy tidings this morning. Bitcoin is back up right around that 114 mark. We've seen some movement in the last 24 hours. You can see we were down a lot, but as low as the high 110s, but we're back up to 114. Things are trending in the right direction. Let's see how the rest of the market is playing this morning as well. Right now, let's take a look here. They're bringing it up for us. This is a live show after all, so it takes a couple of seconds, and there we go. So we have Bitcoin currently above 114. We have Ethereum moving with the current right around that $4,400 level. And last but not least, we got Solana making some impressive gains in the last couple of days. They're up over 3% today in that 323 arena. In TradFi, let's see what we got. The Dow Jones down about 0.5% this morning. We have the S&P 5 sitting coolly around that $6,500 mark. Not a lot of movement there. We have the NASDAQ Composite inching toward that $22,000 mark. And last but not least, we got Strategy having an update today. Bitcoin's up and so is it. So they're at 155, up $1, 1.5% on the day. We're going to break, but when we're back, today's top story, so stay tuned for that when we return. All right, welcome back. It's time for this morning's Bull Run where we go over the top stories of the day. First up, well, it looks like Japan's Metaplanet is back to doing that thing it does. Well, the Tokyo-listed Bitcoin treasury firm is raising $1.4 billion by selling 385 million new shares internationally. Originally, they were only going to issue 180 million shares, then someone in the boardroom must have said, hey, why not double it and just buy way more Bitcoin? Shares are priced at 553 yen, or about $3.75 each. Out of the 204 billion yen raised, 183 of it goes directly into Bitcoin. Another 20.4 billion funds their Bitcoin income generation business, which is corporate speak for trading options until we make our accountants cry. Metaplanet already holds over 20,000 Bitcoin. They even dropped another 15 million on BTC this week, bringing their total stash to over 20,000 Bitcoin currently. That makes them the 6th largest public Bitcoin treasury behind Strategy, Mara, 21, Bitcoin Standard Treasury, and Bullish. Let's actually take a look here at the leaderboard. So what we're peeking at now, this is bitcointreasuries.net. This is the #1 place on the interwebs to see what your favorite public companies are doing with their Bitcoin. So right now you can see this is the big board. Of course, we've got Strategy adorning the top of it. But if we go all the way down to, what is it, number 6 or 7, we have Metaplanet, who we were just talking about now. So if we were to click on Metaplanet here, this will bring us to their individual page on Bitcoin treasuries. So we can see their entire Bitcoin balance, currently made up of over 20,000 Bitcoin at an average cost of $102,669 per coin, which at today's prices, we're back up to that 114 area, means they are firmly in the profit side of things at about 11.11%. So pretty good. Not strategy good, but pretty good. And if we scroll down a little further here, we can actually see how this relates to their stock and their financials, right? So we have the overall market cap, we have their market cap enterprise value, how much of that is actually comprised of their Bitcoin. This is a really useful place to get a full view as to what is going on with the public companies out there that are actually acquiring Bitcoin for their treasury. So bitcointreasuries.net, bookmark it. It's a good one to have. Let's get back to camera 1 here, guys. So with this new raise from Metaplanet, they expect to add another 12,590 Bitcoin to their balance sheet, bringing their total hoard to over 32,000, which should definitely help them in our rankings over there. That would be about a 62.5% increase in reserves over what they currently have, which again was about over 20,000. Now, the reason they're doing this is pretty simple. Japan's economy is an absolute train wreck right now. I mean, sky-high debt, negative interest rates, a yen falling harder than FTX. And then their answer to this, well, let's swap paper yen for digital gold. Okay. They even bragged back in May of 2024 in a filing that they'd officially transition to Bitcoin as their primary reserve assets. That was well over a year ago now. And it's not just that they're buying and hodling the Bitcoin, they're trading Bitcoin options on the side. That alone raked them in nearly 2 billion additional yen in Q2 of this year. But despite this news, the market, well, they threw a tantrum anyway, as after the announcement, shares dropped to nearly 10% in a single day from 682 to 614 yen. Why did this happen? Now, it seems like it'd be good news, right? Well, dilution, for one. Investors don't like it when their slice of the pie gets a little bit smaller, even if that pie is now Bitcoin flavored. But if you zoom out, though, year to date, Metaplanet stock is up 64%, and over the last year, it's up over 500%. Over the last 5 years, over 800%. So yeah, the short-term drop is definitely some noise, but the long-term look, Metaplanet is basically Japan's strategy, right? They're betting the farm on Bitcoin and telling the end that they can get stuffed. All right, in other news, Figma's first earnings report as a public company came out, and it was less of a debut and more of a pratfall. The stock tanked nearly 20% last week, hitting $54.56 before close. That's a far cry from the $122 peak that we saw in early August, which now looks like an NFT floor price chart. The irony here? Well, revenue actually grew 41% year over year to nearly $250 million. That's slightly better than expected, but apparently investors wanted Figma to cure cancer too. Guidance for 2025 adjusted operating income landed between 88 and 98 million, exactly where projections already sat. So the core business, not broken. The vibes, broken. And then came the Bitcoin questions, of course. Because in July, Figma admitted it was holding around 70 million in Bitcoin through an ETF. And this week's SEC filing revealed that pile is now nearly 91 million, tucked inside a $1.6 billion cash position. CFO Praveer Melwani spelled it out, saying 91 million in Bitcoin ETFs surrounded by fiat like a chaperone at prom. Naturally, CNBC asked if Figma was the next Michael Saylor cosplay. CEO Dylan Field practically shouted, "We're not trying to be Saylor." And this is not a Bitcoin holding company, it's a design company, he said. Or in other words, stop drawing laser eyes logos on all of our stuff, please. Figma insists that Bitcoin is nothing more than a balance sheet hedge, not a religious movement. Yes, they'll probably buy more though, and no, they're not turning the company into a Bitcoin treasury stunt double. Context check. Adobe's $20 billion takeover attempt imploded back in 2023. Regulators called it antitrust, and Figma shrugged and just kept on building. Now they serve 95% of the Fortune 500, which means your boss's boss is probably designing ugly slide decks in it right now. So here's the play. Solid revenue, massive client base, balance sheet sprinkled with Bitcoin, and management yelling, "Look at the software," not the sats, which of course only makes us look harder at the sats. All right, we're taking a break, but when we're back, we're going to be joined by our first guest of the day, so stay tuned for all of that and more coming up on the Blockchain Report.
Security matters. Zappo Bank, the only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
So, tell us about your furry friend here. What's his name?
Oh, this? This is Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
It's not just a cat, he's family.
Quite a name, and I must say, looks quite pampered.
Oh, absolutely. Bitcoin deserves nothing but the best. He's my little prince.
But with such a valuable pet, aren't you afraid of losing him?
Losing Bitcoin? No, it never happened before, so it's not something I worry about. Excuse me for a moment. Bitcoin, stay here, right?
Bitcoin, no! Bitcoin, come on, little buddy, Bitcoin, I need you. Don't go.
markets runs on Bitcoin. Introducing Roxom, the first ever exchange where Bitcoiners can trade treasury stocks entirely in BTC. Get exposure to top Bitcoin holding companies like MicroStrategy and Metaplanet, priced in Bitcoin from the start. No fiat, no middlemen. This is what financial freedom looks like. Early access now live at roxom.com/treasuries. Built by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners.
All right, welcome back. Now, joining us for our bull run today, we got a special guest. Now, this gentleman has raised over $100 million for crypto startups, secured more than $1 billion in total value locked, and helped launch some of the most ambitious projects in Bitcoin and DeFi. From traditional finance to Lizard, to pushing the boundaries with Thesis, TBTC, Acre, and now a new Bitcoin-backed stablecoin. His career has been about bridging Wall Street polish with crypto's chaos. He's a community builder, a strategist, and someone who believes Bitcoin stoicism, not toxic Twitter maximalism. That is the future of this space. Today, he's here to talk to us about his biggest project yet, Mezo. Please give a big Blockchain Report welcome to its co-founder, Brian Mahoney. Welcome to the show. We're certainly happy to have you.
It's a great intro.
Thanks. Yeah, we're super pumped to have you here today, Brian. But before we dive into today's headlines, really quick, if you could give our audience the quick version, who are you? What are you building with Mezo? Why have you dedicated yourself to Bitcoin? And then we'll get into it.
Yeah, sure. So as you touched on a little bit, I am a former Wall Street traditional finance or TradFi guy, turned full Bitcoin maxi and DeFi crypto native. So started my journey back in 2017. after about 8 years on Wall Street, and haven't looked back since. And then my latest project and kind of core focus now is building around Bitcoin, specifically building the Bitcoin Bank, which is the sort of North Star of Mezo.
Amazing. Well, we're going to get into that and more in just a little bit here, Brian. But first, I'm going to read this story. We're going to bring you right back and chat about it. Awesome. Sound good?
Sounds great.
All right, let's do it. Well, in Europe, if you haven't been paying attention, apparently subtlety is dead. A new company, literally named TREASURY, raised $147 million to copy Michael Saylor's playbook. Backers include the Winklevoss twins in Winklevoss Capital, Nakamoto Holdings, and a lineup of Bitcoin venture outfits that reads like a guest list at Bitcoin Miami. TREASURY has already stacked 1,000 BTC. Their plan? Keep buying more using equity and debt, crank out Bitcoin yield, and dress it all up as capital markets innovation. The ultimate goal, a listing on Amsterdam's Euronext, courtesy of a reverse merger with MKB Nedsense NV. Amsterdam, of course, invented the stock market, so Tyler Winklevoss swooped in with the quote, "Bitcoin is the greatest financial innovation of this century, and TREASURY is carrying on the Dutch tradition." Or in other words, we're Saylor, but with stroopwafels. They're also stacking advisors, Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss, plus David Bailey, because apparently no one launches a treasury firm without an entourage. And for extra flair, TREASURY bought the company that runs Bitcoin Amsterdam, one of the largest European Bitcoin conferences. So yeah, they literally bought the conference that will hype them up. TREASURY says it wants to educate, engage, and connect investors to Bitcoin's transformative potential, which sounds noble, but really means buy Bitcoin, throw conferences, repeat. So Europe now has its own strategy. Different continent, same orange playbook. And if you think this won't be bullish for Bitcoin's price, you haven't seen what happens when Dutch traders get excited about tulips. All right, we're bringing Brian back in. Brian, TREASURY raises $147 million in Europe to copy strategy. It seems like Europe now has a company literally called TREASURY that are copying Saylor's playbook. Do you see this as a sign of Bitcoin treasuries going mainstream, or is it just a clever branding with some hype sprinkled on it?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, I do think at this point, Bitcoin treasuries are mainstream. So they're, I guess tapping into that demand a little bit further and just kind of moving the ball forward on the mainstream side. But one of the most interesting things about, this play, especially with Europe, and, kind of boils down to what one of the main goals for a lot of these kind of call it the strategy playbook, right, is raising that low cost of capital through debt or equity financing and then maximizing that Bitcoin price per share. And that's where strategy has been able to execute extremely well. And I think with TREASURY in the Europe play, some of the largest fixed income holders or debt financiers in the world are based in Europe. And so that's a great market to tap into for financing to buy and drive Bitcoin purchases and maximize that Bitcoin price per share.
Yeah, and on top of that, TREASURY even went out and bought the Bitcoin Amsterdam conference. Is that a smart vertical integration, or does it feel a little too self-promotional for comfort? What do you think?
I think it's pretty smart. I mean, you're seeing that in general across the board, right? It's, if you own the conference or it's just another kind of distribution stack, right? So from their perspective, I think it's a great way to build community hype and momentum. And, that's what it's all about in crypto, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Any kind of publicity is good publicity, right? Especially if you are
exactly.
the PR in this particular instance. And, they're coming with a whole entourage, as we mentioned in the story, too. You got Winklevoss Capital, Nakamoto Holdings. They're both backing the TREASURY. Backing TREASURY. Do you think that this strengthens Bitcoin's presence in Europe, or does it maybe risk becoming one of those too many cooks in the kitchen situations?
I think in Europe, it definitely strengthens the position. They're kind of missing Europe as a continent is missing a face there a little bit, right? In terms of kind of what strategy is for the U.S. And you're seeing a lot of the same playbooks being rolled out around the world, especially in Asia, country by country. And I think Europe was kind of missing a dominant force on the Bitcoin, strategy playbook push, or Bitcoin Treasury Company push. And so this, with TREASURY and the Winklevoss twins, I think that's really great tailwinds for Bitcoin. And I'm excited to see kind of where they take it.
Yeah, Brian, and as someone who's come from traditional markets like yourselves, it makes me wonder, like Treasury plans to scale through equity and debt raises. Do you think we'll see more treasuries tap traditional capital markets this way, or is this still kind of risky territory right now?
I think it's still a growing trend. We're seeing this increasingly be, a financing mechanism. I mean, really, one of the interesting parallels of like this cycle, where we're in right now is versus like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, especially is it's primarily institutional driven. And in a weird kind of way, and I feel like I'm living in an inverse world a little bit. If we remember the ICO or ICO days of 2017, these digital asset treasury companies are sort of like the Wall Street version of the ICO, and it's this, but it's an inverse way tapping into traditional financial markets. And, as long as the capital is cheap, I think we're going to continue to see this trend grow and grow, right? And that's really what it kind of boils down to, because that delta of maximizing that Bitcoin price per share, or what maybe some folks refer to as the MNAV in more kind of Wall Street circles, which is the market, net asset value, multiple of the net asset value. The higher that premium, the more kind of Bitcoin price per share you'll be able to maximize. And that makes it worthwhile as an investor, especially if I'm, looking for returns on the fixed income side as, things continue to, we'll say, change or kind of how things turn out with some of the rate cuts looming in the US with, that's around the corner.
Mm-hmm. And as other companies are trying to run this Sailor playbook, it seems like we're getting these kind of mini Sailors around the world, right? Like we got Metaplanet, which is often referred to as the Japanese strategy. Now we're getting Treasury. Do you think having these kind of mini Sailors actually benefits Bitcoin? Or could it maybe water down the narrative that made strategies move so powerful in the first place? Or maybe even worse, what if one of these doesn't do well? Does that kind of ruin the whole narrative as a whole? Or like, what are your thoughts on that?
Short term, for sure, I think it's great for Bitcoin. It's creating, lots of buying pressure and demand in the market, and it's tapping markets that may have been unable to access direct spot Bitcoin purchases because they're of regulation or given kind of wherever they are in the jurisdiction. There's different regulations around the world for accessing, Bitcoin purchases. And so these digital asset treasury plays are opening that up as a major distribution channel that has historically been blocked. So that for me has been, huge for Bitcoin, and I think is one of the primary drivers of the price because it's creating these demand sinks. And then medium to long term, I think ultimately it's going to boil down to, can they keep that cost of capital low and continue to meet those targets? And, if Bitcoin continues to grow, that shouldn't be a problem. But if things, go the other way, right, that's where you might get into some trouble with kind of the debt, the debt stack and preferences there in terms of paying back the what's owed to the debt holders. And so that's where, that's something to closely watch. But, unfortunately, I wish I had a crystal ball to tell you how that might look. But I think as long as, cost of capital is kept low and Bitcoin's performance continues to exceed with demand, driving that force behind it, I think this is going to be a great trend overall for Bitcoin.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're certainly in unfounded territory, but it certainly seems like things are trending in a certain direction. So I think all is well for now, at least. Yeah. All right, Brian, I think it's time you and I get into it. We want to learn more about what you are up to in our deep dive. So guys, let's roll the stinger and do it. All right, Brian, so now it's time for our deep dive. We get a better idea of your background and everything that you're up to over at Mezo. Let's start kind of with your journey. It's been an interesting one. In TradFi, you started your career at HSBC and Lazard, kind of the buttoned-up world of traditional finance. What was the exact moment you decided to ditch the suit and tie life and start building weird internet money instead?
Yeah, well put. I think there was kind of one day where I looked around at, some of my superiors, we'll call it, at the bank, and was like, okay, I don't really see myself on this path long term. And I started to get an interest. I mean, I was already a holder of Bitcoin at that point. This was roughly around the 2015, 2014 timeframe. So was, keeping an eye on Bitcoin in general. And then this thing called Ethereum came out. And that really sort of unleashed, for me, some of the use cases and especially in traditional capital markets and financial markets of what's beyond, kind of the store of value and the composability layer, which is what Ethereum enables, these different apps and services to be, digitally native. And for me, I like to kind of view the world in 5 to 10 years sort of cycles, if you will, in terms of thinking about where's the future headed. And, I'm a hockey guy. I grew up playing sports, and there's a saying that I always sort of fall back to, which is, skate to where the puck is going. And for me, blockchain technology was that major disruptor that was going to completely change the way finance and Wall Street operates. And, it's taken a little bit longer since originally when I thought maybe it might happen in 2021, 2022. But I think now with regulation opening up and we're just seeing this full arm embrace, and the worlds are converging between Wall Street and crypto. And pretty soon it's, you're not going to even be able to distinguish between the two sides. It's just going to be capital markets or finance. And there's a huge convergence going on right now, real time. And so it's a really exciting time to be in the space and building.
Yeah, no, we're seeing it right before our eyes right now. And you said you're a hockey guy. Who's your team?
Minnesota Wild. So I grew up in Minnesota. And so and hockey.
Minnesota's nice though. Twin Cities are great.
It is nice, especially in the summer.
I think is from there.
That's right, yeah. Mighty Ducks.
No, that's right. I actually saw a stat on him recently. Apparently scored like. Yeah. According to the stat on that movie, I just saw it like yesterday. He scored like 30 goals a game. So you guys got a lot of hockey powerhouses coming out of there. But back to what we were talking about. You mentioned about you thought Bitcoin would be at a further place than it was back in like 21, 22, which is interesting because when I was doing my due diligences on you, I saw that you often talk about Bitcoin stoicism, the idea of like staying patient and staying convicted without the whole toxic Twitter maxis energy that we see all the time. So it begs the question, as a Bitcoin stoic, when Bitcoin drops 20% in a week and everyone's freaking out and they're saying we're doomed, what does Bitcoin stoicism look like in practice to you in those situations?
Yeah, that's a great question. For me, I mean, it's just really not kind of paying attention to the price movement day to day. I mean, of course, it matters in my job, but in terms of my mindset, like this is a game-changing technology for everyone, right? And it's really redesigning how money and our relationship with building wealth and there's a lot of other components tied to it, freedom and democratized access to finance, right? Which I believe is a fundamental kind of right for, wherever you are, regardless of your country or where you grew up in, you have the right to transact and access. And that to me is what Bitcoin enables. But in terms of thinking about kind of the evolution of it, right? This is a pretty big disruption in the way that global capital markets work. And, it touches government and so many different sectors. And so, my comment was more about Wall Street embracing crypto. I think it's taken a little bit longer out of the gates. But, I think the genie's out of the bottle now. You're not going to be able to put it back in. And as it relates to where we are right now, I think it's definitely accelerating. There's sort of this saying in Silicon Valley, it's, gradually then suddenly, right? Or the future is unevenly distributed. Right. And I think we're seeing this convergence happen real time right now. And there's been quite a number of macro catalysts that are really unlocking this. And so I think, hold on to your hats for the next 3 years because it's going to get pretty interesting.
Yeah, things are happening and fast right now. And you're right in the mix of this. And it's very interesting because you have this really unique mix of stoicism, of traditional finance chops. I even saw you have a background in comedy and community building. So it begs the question, how does someone with that resume end up building one of the most ambitious Bitcoin projects in the world? How did that all bring you to here now? What was that like?
Yeah. Well, for me, I think I've always been interested in, being on the cutting edge for sure. And, what's exciting about, what I'm doing right now with Mezo and more widely Thesis is, number one, I have to be aligned whatever I'm working on from an ethos standpoint. And for me, the concept of freedom is extremely important and having, what kind of Bitcoin represents. That's something I live day in, day out, regardless of my work or not. It's something that I believe strongly in, and my work has to align with my personal beliefs. That's like a kind of a no-brainer for me. And I found back in the traditional finance world, I wasn't sort of getting that fulfillment, right? So that was sort of the first thing that led me on this path was just getting curious and really, kind of reflecting and thinking deeply on what drives me, right? And then beyond that, it's like, okay, I grew up as a sports guy. I'm competitive, and I grew up in a big family, oldest of four, have like 60 cousins, so I love and thrive in community. I'm a big person kind of in that aspect. And so crypto is a pretty unique world to work in, where you're literally living on these, community servers at the same time, speaking to the customers directly. Everyone wants things now, and so you have to sort of navigate that. But I find that extremely exciting, and the growth potential and scale of these projects in the space and what you're able to unlock is for me, that's why I get out of bed day after day and drive. This is the potential to drive real change in the world and open up and rethink kind of the way we transact and the way we interact with and help others around the world, open up and find new ways to build wealth.
Yeah, and your passion about this is quite palpable, and that brings us to your most recent endeavor, right? You're over at Mezo. Give me the elevator pitch, of Mezo, like you're explaining it to my Mima, right? So what is Mezo? Sure. Why should the average Bitcoiner actually care about it? What does it do? Tell us about it.
Yeah, so Mezo is building the Bitcoin financial bank on chain, or the Bitcoin bank on chain. So what does that mean? Well, if you think about the way a bank is constructed, it usually kind of boils down to 3 or 4 functions. And I'll use like HSBC as an example, which is one of the world's largest banks, very global, very large global footprint. So they have the retail bank, which is, banking, kind of standard like checking, savings, or credit card account, that sort of, just like your daily consumer finance products. They have the trading arm, which is global capital markets. Right? That's where like Wall Street trading desks, leverage finance, that sort of thing. Then they have the commercial arm, or commercial banking, business banking, or banking services for businesses and small businesses, medium businesses, large businesses all around the world. And then you have the private bank, which is the high net worth component. And if you look at the way sort of crypto and Bitcoin finance and DeFi or Bitcoin Fi is evolving, there's the saying, history rhymes, it doesn't repeat. And there's a lot of the same services being built right now on chain, because a lot of people believe sort of the saying that Coinbase has coined as part of their marketing, but on chain is the new online, right? And so for me, there's also this kind of unbundling of the bank stack that's happening in crypto. And if you map all the different projects that are building in the space, they're targeting specific aspects of banking and financial services. And so for us, we looked at that map, right, and kind of did, our own analysis and thought, okay, number one, we serve Bitcoiners, right? And so what do you need right now in the market, right? And this is a $2 trillion market that's rapidly growing, encroaching on gold, right, from a growth standpoint. And right now is referred to, and the primary use case is that digital gold or HODL use case. But what happens after that, right? Where do you sort of take it from there? And that's where this concept of the bank makes sense, right? And so enabling different ways to put your Bitcoin to work in the real world to actually make a difference in your life. And so people right now we've had different lending and other sort of services that are supporting Bitcoin, and there's plenty of companies doing great things around Bitcoin financing right now. But one of the gaps to me that still has not been solved in the market is building a sort of financial services product or company that aligns with the underlying value properties of Bitcoin. And to me, that boils down to, something that's open source, community driven, and decentralized, right? Just like the Bitcoin blockchain is. Mm-hmm. And so that's the underlying driver of Mezo is, we're providing and servicing people who want to, enable borrowing against their Bitcoin or ways to get additional yield on their Bitcoin, but doing it in a way that's self-service, a way that they can control their own destiny and user journey end to end. And they don't have to rely on any third-party intermediaries, right? There's no black box of credit or rehypothecation going on. And so that's what the blockchain, ultimately kind of the core use case behind Mezo enables is unlocking that self-service and fully on-chain experience. You can see your flow of funds at all times. And then you can actually do things that are useful to you in the real world, like taking out a loan or buying a coffee with your Bitcoin or that sort of thing.
That makes a lot of sense. And it's an interesting conundrum that comes up with that, because it's like these two ideas in the Bitcoin space that are very prevalent but are at odds with each other, yes. Which is never sell your Bitcoin, but then you also have this huge group that are like, we need Bitcoin to be the main medium of exchange going forward. So it's like, which one is it? Should I never be selling it or should I be using it? Which is better? I don't know. And it seems like you guys are doing a great job of solving that problem. In fact, your big hook over at Mezo is that you let people use their Bitcoin without selling it, thanks to your MUSD, which is your Bitcoin-backed stablecoin. So for someone new to this, how do you explain that without sounding like another one of those trust me, bro, exchange blowups that we've seen in the space before? What makes you guys different?
Well, the good news is you don't have to trust what I'm saying. Everything I'm talking about here, you can go and verify yourself on the Mezo chain itself. So that's, it's trust the code, don't trust me, bro, sort of thing. But in terms of the primary use case with MUSD, really all it is just, you think of it this way, it's just a Bitcoin loan, right? It's a way for you to take out dollars or a dollar equivalent in this case, which is MUSD, and using your Bitcoin as collateral and doing it in a way that's extremely cheap, right? Right now we're offering 1% borrow rates against your Bitcoin, which undercuts the market significantly. And the reason we can do that is because we have there's no third-party intermediary fees for us. And also the benefit of a stable coin, which this is a bit of a DeFi term, but there's this concept called the CDP that was kind of pioneered by MakerDAO, or a collateralized debt position. And so one of the unique things that MUSD offers is it also undercuts not only the rates and cost of capital for borrowing, but this two-sided market issue. So you as the depositor, when I say self-service, you are quite literally borrowing against yourself. So if you go on Mezo right now, you deposit Bitcoin into the smart contract that's fully on chain, right? That's being built and trusted by the chain itself. You're not sending it to a third party or anything like that. And then you're able to set how much you want to borrow, and you're able to literally mint or borrow against in the form of MUSD, and then you have that MUSD in your wallet. And you can take that out and you can do things with it, like spend it if you want. You can go and get yield on it, or you can just sit on it, right, and hold it. And we're continuing to expand the use cases here. That's part of the bootstrap kind of go-to-market stage that we're going in through right now. This is live as of a couple months, but in terms of the main kind of use case, we're seeing significant demand. We have over $1 billion committed on capital already for MUSD supply. And so we think we're onto something pretty big, and ultimately the vision, beyond just like spending or kind of getting some basic yield on it, really where we're going is mortgages. We think there's a pretty significant opportunity with MUSD in the real estate sector in particular, because you have this $2 trillion market, as I touched on, right, of the Bitcoin economic class that quite literally influenced and swung the election in the US, right, the presidential election, right, and they're continuing to gain power and momentum, gaining inroads with NASDAQ, the stock exchanges, regulators, right. Bitcoin has a voice at the seat of the table of the president of the United States, as well as many other countries, and even local legislations, right, with this treasury push. And so you're continuing to see Bitcoin's influence expand, and I think the gold, sort of digital gold use case, or the HODL use case, is proven at this point, and it's only a matter of time, in my mind, before Bitcoin flips gold from a market cap standpoint. And then after that, what is the next biggest store of value, especially if you're an individual? Well, real estate. And so I think it's going to be an interesting real estate's a massive market. It's north of 300 trillion globally, if you include commercial businesses as well. Lower side, about 120 trillion in personal real estate. And that's how a lot of people build wealth, right? So there's a lot of parallels between, owning real estate and using that as a wealth driver, and owning Bitcoin and using that as a wealth driver, right? And real estate as well, your properties in the US, where I'm based, it's your property, your rights kind of thing. And so there's a lot of interesting parallels, but Bitcoin also unlocks more liquidity, global markets, right? You have a lot more sort of an optionality with that, and also less overhead and baggage, right? And as the Bitcoin as a market continues to mature, it's going to be way easier to obtain, which is what you're seeing right now with some of these digital asset treasury plays, right? That's continuing to drive it. So I think we're going to continue to see Bitcoin climb in terms of its value prop, and it's going to continue to after it's like a Pac-Man eating gold, it's going to start eating real estate next, in our view.
Yeah, no, I definitely see how that could play out that way. But I want to rewind for a second because there was something you mentioned that I want to repeat for the cheap seats in the back. You said that you guys are offering loans starting at 1%. Now,
Yes.
I believe most Bitcoin loans are around that 5 to 20% area. So it makes me wonder, like, is that a long-term model, or is this kind of your Black Friday sale to get people initially in the door? Like, what's the plan there?
Great question. And 1% definitely sounds a little scammy. I mean, I agree. It's like, well, how are you able to do that? What's the magic here? So
Yeah.
there is, I mean, we have the protocol and actually the community. So part of the benefit of running a chain is you sort of answer to the community and the various token holders and stakeholders. And so there's a pretty democratic process in like setting rates and setting fees and that sort of thing. So we as a community kind of made the decision with Mezo, let's start, just get extremely aggressive on rates out of the gates. Like for us, it's not about making money. It's more about providing utility to folks. And so we thought, 1% is enough to kind of cover the costs of operating the protocol and the day-to-day overhead. And then as this product scales, we will probably ramp it up a little bit. But there'll be plenty of foresight for that in terms of when those rates rise. And I would expect it to be probably closer to like 3 or 4%, usually around market, kind of depending on if it's on chain or through like a centralized exchange lender or something like that. It's anywhere from like 5 to 10% is pretty market for borrowing rates. So for us, we will ultimately plan to always offer better than kind of an undercut what the market rate is. But I expect, this 1% won't last forever. So the little bit of the Black Friday sale, I guess, as you kind of alluded to.
Yeah, people better get over to the website before it's gone. Victor, why don't you bring up the Mezo website so people know where they can get those 1% rates? I know what I'm doing after this show.
And I'll mention too, it's fixed and indefinite. So there's not actually technically a tenor on it, which is another benefit.
Okay.
So we're able to enable this because we have and own the full stack in the chain, right? So that's where the benefits of having this be on chain and built, sort of the full vertical stack. We don't have to worry about paying any third-party fees, right? And then the system itself is automated to manage any like sort of bad debt or liquidations, which is a key piece in maintaining market health and ecosystem health for these products.
Yeah, and bank on yourself. That's a great slogan there.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, our marketing team's done very well. I appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, they're crushing it. I love the work they're doing. I'm a big fan. I was looking into Mezo, and I saw that during your testnet, users deposited over $300 million and borrowed $1.8 billion worth of MUSD. So what did that tell you about what people actually want versus what the builders assume they want after seeing that?
This is a great question, and I think one that the overall kind of crypto industry is always jockeying with, right? It's like, kind of said plainly, it's like, are we building for developers and on the infrastructure side, or is it more for, sort of the next wave and mainstream consumers? And I think in past cycles, it's definitely been more kind of developer and there's been a premium on like infrastructure-based projects in the space. And now I think the tide is changing. And really kind of the winners of this cycle is, people that want that real world utility. It's referred to as RWAs or real world assets. You might have come across that term. And we're seeing, and for me, that's really just the convergence of like Wall Street financial products and, DeFi or on-chain financial products. These are continuing to come closer and closer together from a user experience standpoint. And then on the mainstream or retail side, getting crypto more usable in the real world, like, actually having like a card that you can go to a shop or a vendor and pay for something or go shopping, right? And so that is something that we're seeing really take off in the space. And I think as it relates to the metrics of Mezo testnet, I think, we're seeing that demand. People want utility on their Bitcoin and they want to do it in a safe and secure way. And so it really, for us, it's about making sure we enable those distribution channels for folks to actually put that to work and enable those real world spending use cases. And that's something we're extremely focused on. And we think we're in a pretty unique advantage as well, position wise, just given, because Mezo, I think I've touched on this a little bit, but it's part of a wider organization called Thesis, which has been building in Bitcoin since 2014. And we have a number of other portfolio companies that we've sort of incubated and built over the years and spun out. And there's quite a number of those that offer different ways to stack your Bitcoin and spend in the real world, gift cards and all of that. So we plan to fully use kind of MUSD as much as we can through those channels.
Mm-hmm. And as someone who has such a presence in building products for Bitcoin, I read that you've said in the past that your mission personally is to make Bitcoin finance simple, right? So what does that look like in practice? What makes Bitcoin simple so that we can start seeing, greater levels of adoption? Is it a UX thing, a user interface thing? Is it an education thing? Like, what does that really mean to you about making Bitcoin finance simple?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I, to be clear, I don't think the space is there yet, but we've made significant strides in kind of driving Bitcoin utility. I think really it's all about moving kind of beyond, as I've touched on a little bit with the Bitcoin HODL or digital gold use case. If you're going to unlock, additional utility for Bitcoin and actually make a difference in people's lives. I mean, of course, Bitcoin's made great changes in people's lives already and positive effects. I mean, the price appreciation alone has been, significant, like life-changing for many people that I know in the industry and beyond. But a lot of people don't want to sell their Bitcoin, right? They want to keep holding. This is an asset that is, driving the future of the world and, is likely to disrupt a lot of the way the fiat and traditional capital markets work. So if it's something you want to keep holding for 10 to 20, to 30 plus years, right? What do you have to enable to actually, get these kind of use cases beyond? And right now, one of the core places is either through like an exchange, like a Coinbase or a Binance, right, where you can use like a wrapped version or trade it there. And a wrapped version is basically just a way for you to use your Bitcoin in DeFi or a place like Ethereum or Solana, which is sort of another chain ecosystem outside of the Bitcoin network that has different apps and services for trading, lending, and swapping, which are sort of the primary ways that folks engage with financial assets and generate yield and drive value to their day-to-day lives. But where Bitcoin hasn't really quite penetrated yet is like sort of the average day use case and spending. And it's our view that, people don't really want to spend. I mean, obviously some people do. This isn't like a one size fits all sort of use case, but it's in our view that the majority of folks don't want to spend their Bitcoin. They want to keep stacking and they want to spend fiat instead, right? Which is an inflationary asset that doesn't have that store of value, as Bitcoin does from a uniqueness standpoint. And so that's where the sort of driver of MUSD is coming into play. It's like, kind of a way for folks to, and we're able to cheaply mint and create a spending mechanism for folks to spend against their Bitcoin while continuing to stack that underlying utility. And furthermore, I think as it relates to like a product experience standpoint, one of the main challenges has been the user experience, right? I think you touched on it a little bit and the education around that. Right. Because user experience in my mind incorporates education as well. Of course, it's what you engage with and click on the app or whatever you're using on the, pick your favorite banking mobile site. But we haven't, seen kind of Bitcoin make waves or crypto make waves quite there yet into the fintech world or the traditional finance world as it relates to the average user and everyday kind of retail banking individual. But that's a step that is happening right now. And that's the catalyst for that is a lot of the regulatory tailwinds that have been unlocked. And so I expect we're going to continue to see a race in this direction here. And, the winners of this cycle who nail the user experience, that'll be kind of like the defining factor in my view.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I mean, we're always looking to see how can we make things, idiot proof so anybody can use them. Like Robinhood, I felt like did a really good job of that with TradFi back during the COVID times. And we saw that gamification of that and the ease of which you could buy and sell stocks, and it exploded, right? And didn't hurt the way everyone was getting stimulus checks, but different times.
That's true too. Exactly.
And in your quest to make the user experience better and to make these products that you're creating more accessible, you've made some really great partnerships with Lolly, Bitrafil, Fold, and even Ledger. So of those partnerships, which of them do you think will make Mezo real for the average user? Is it in like, I can actually use this today real?
Yeah, great question. I mean, so you can use MUSD on BitRefill right now to get gift cards, right? But under the hood of a lot of these fintech and kind of consumer-focused applications, there's a tech stack, right? Just like in the on-chain world, same sort of thing. And a lot of this boils down to custody of assets and the flow of funds and how that settlement process works, and then regulation around the custody of those assets. And so one of the challenges with like tapping into kind of the more traditional or fintech side of the market to enable like a Robinhood-like experience is, you have to build out and tie in, because for us, it's important that we maintain the on-chain experience as much as possible and that decentralized, kind of ethos that Bitcoin represents as an asset class. And so for tapping into like a Robinhood style user experience, right? Sometimes the blockchain and its bandwidth, right, does not allow for the best user experience. And so kind of threading that needle for, a lot of folks in the space call it, distinguish between like on-chain and off-chain. And usually the user experience is better with off-chain, or, another analogy would be like Web 2 and Web 3, right? So Web 3 is what's referred to as, kind of DeFi crypto, Bitcoin on-chain. Web 2 is your traditional like app, right? Like a social media app or that's built on a more traditional database that is an open source, and is usually powered by like an Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud, something like that. And they're able to maximize efficiency, and because it's a closed-end system, right? And so there's a little bit of like an apples and oranges dynamic under the hood that many folks in the, like just your average mainstream user isn't quite aware of in terms of all those trade-offs. And I think the good news is the on-chain world is getting faster and better and improving. And also, there's a huge demand growing on the other side of kind of the Web 2 world, people who want to access the yields and opportunities that on-chain finance offers. And so that's kind of where we're going to go, is I think the two worlds converging.
Yeah, it seems like a tough tightrope to walk a little bit, right? Because as we saw from Robin,
a little bit of thread in the needle for sure.
They want like exciting, right? They turned traditional finance and buying stocks that you would do on your Schwab account. It wasn't sexy, and they kind of figured out a way to make it a little sexy and interesting to Joe Q consumer. But with that being said, right, institutions, they want safe. They want boring, predictable, safe products. So how do you make Mezo appealing to them without making it boring for all of the users that you're trying to onboard onto the platform?
Yeah, that's a great question. That kind of boils down to our go-to-market strategy and what we've been executing on. So we think of ourselves as B2B2C, so business to business to consumer. And if you look at just sort of like patterns of the last, call it new assets being issued. So like some of the most famous stable coins, for example, like USDT or Tether and USDC by Circle. Right. And even like dating back to the way like the dollar started, right? We used to be in the US on the gold standard, right? And actually different states had their own currencies. And then eventually it all sort of all came together and the gold standard was dropped, and then we just had the dollar. But that took, years and years and decades, right, to kind of play out. And in crypto, everything happens much faster, right, in a tighter cycle. And so for us, there's a lot of learnings in the past. I mentioned earlier, history rhymes, it doesn't repeat. And so for us, the kind of the B2B2C model is, taking this or partnering with partners who can drive liquidity into the market in the wholesaler approach or wholesale approach. So, these are like issuers, right, who can drive that liquidity. And then the more liquidity there is out there, the more retail and your average user can do, right? Because think about it this way, like if you go to like, just a market in the real world, like a bazaar or a like a farmer's market or something, right? There's a lot of weird kind of analogies between like, just going shopping at a market like that versus like, a digital screen but they're saying that they're doing the same thing, right? In terms of a trading or an order book, right? It's all about depth of inventory, right? And who's going to give you the best price. So if you have more liquidity being driven by wholesale, which is the institutional side, which by the way is what also like Robinhood employs, right? It's no secret they do this payment for order flow. That's the core of their business model. The reason why they're able to give you that best price when you transact on the Robinhood app to buy your stock is because on the back end, they're sending all those orders to market makers, which are the wholesalers, who execute that and give you the best price because they specialize in that, right? And then they might take a little fee for their services, but you as the user are happy to pay that because it's a great experience for you to transact and you can get what you set out to do, which is, buying that stock or buying that good or service. And so it's all about depth of liquidity and tightness of spreads. And that's what, we're focused on, is enabling that on the back end side and then marrying that up with the user experience and unlock on the retail side so that people can actually do stuff they want to do and not be restricted or constrained by, depth of markets or inefficient prices.
Right. And yeah, I mean, you guys have clearly done your research in the space. You said, previously that you think the next 3 years are going to be pretty wild. From your seat at the table, Brian, looking 1 year out and then 5 years out, how does Mezo change the daily life of a Bitcoin holder compared to today? What do you think we'll be looking forward to from you and your team in the future?
1 year out, our goal and target is to get north of 1 billion loans issued. So that boils down to MUSD, driving that utility and enabling really real world utility for folks with their, against their Bitcoin with a product like MUSD. And doing it in a way that changes people's lives day to day, helps them build wealth more effectively and also tap into that wealth they've already built with Bitcoin historically. And in 5 years from now, where we're going is the real estate. We like to get into that market and create, there's a company already started making significant inroads here, Figure in the US. They just filed for an IPO and are going public. And that's something that, we're keeping a close eye on because that, in our view, that's where a lot of the mainstream is headed, is sort of the next segment. Again, moving kind of beyond that digital gold or HODL use case and into real world utility and taking out mortgages, right? So different financial products and consumer finance applications built around MUSD, but doing it in a way that aligns with Bitcoin's core ethos, right? And doesn't undermine that. So on-chain, no intermediaries, and fully community owned.
Very cool. Well, given your already impressive Rolodex of partners, I look forward to congratulating you guys in 2030 of your impending partnership with Zillow or something, because I feel like something like that's coming.
That'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Buy a home with MUSD.
I'll make some calls. I used to be in the space. I know a couple guys. I'll make some calls.
Yeah, all right. Awesome.
So Brian, our time here is coming to a close, but before we get going here, we play a game on the show with all of our guests. So here it is. This has been an interesting year for Bitcoin, as you and I both know. 2025, we've seen new all-time highs. We have a lot of people predicting that things are going to get even better toward the end of Q4, near the end of the year. So my question to you is, all fun and games, if you had to put a price prediction on Bitcoin for the end of 2025, what would it be? We have a leaderboard. We're going to bring it up here because whoever wins this at the end of this year, I'm sending a Roxom Patagonia to. So, fun and games, what is your Bitcoin price prediction, Price is Right style, for the end of this year?
So my prediction back in January of this year was that Bitcoin was going to hit 150K, and I'm still sticking to that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so sticking to his guns. So we got 150. Yeah. Do we have a 150? I think Joe Burnett was already 150, right? Do you want to Price is Right Joe Burnett and go 150 and $1? He'll hate it, but it'll get you closer to that Patagonia. So.
Maybe I'll go 155, something around there. A little more bullish.
155. What a nice guy. What a nice guy. You're the guy in Price is
Right.
Give
him a little buffer.
Like, why did you do that?
Yeah.
I was actually on Price is Right, and I did this very thing, and I lost because of it. So,
oh, really?
Nice guys, Yeah,
okay, well, maybe I'll be picking myself later. But...
yeah, you're like, that Patagonia. Cool, Let's get back to camera one here, guys. All right, well, Brian, I got to say thank you so much for your time today. Before we end up letting you go, though, I'm sure there's plenty of people in our audience that are like, hey, this Brian guy, he knows what he's talking about, and Mezo sounds pretty interesting to me. Where's the best place I can send him to get more info on you and what you're up to and what you and the team at Mezo are doing?
Yeah, so you can learn more about Mezo at mezo.org. which is our core website, and that'll take you to the app and our docs, everything there. We have everything's open source that we do, so plenty of information to sink your teeth into there. And I would say Twitter is probably the best place to get a hold of me. I'm Blockchain Bry, short for Brian, on Twitter.
Love it. Brian, thank you so much for your time today and your expertise and insights and sharing them with all of us. It was certainly a blast to have you on the show. And next time we have you on, I hope I'm sending you a Patagonia, buddy. Appreciate your time today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your week.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Pleasure's all mine. Cheers. All right, we're taking a break, but when we're back, more Blockchain Report coming up right after this, so stay tuned.
Security matters. Zappo Bank. The only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
So, tell us about your furry friend here. What's his name?
Oh, this? This is Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
It's not just a cat, he's family.
Quite a name, and I must say, looks quite pampered.
Oh, absolutely. Bitcoin deserves nothing but the best. He's my little prince.
But with such a valuable pet, aren't you afraid of losing him?
Losing Bitcoin? No, it never happened before, so it's not something I worry about. Excuse me for a moment. Bitcoin, stay here, right?
Bitcoin, no! Bitcoin, come on, little buddy. Bitcoin, I need you. Don't go.
Welcome back. Now, for today's deep dive, we're joined by one of the brightest voices in crypto media. She's the creator behind Gem Crypto, a rising leader in Hong Kong's Bitcoin scene, and the new anchor of Roxom TV Hong Kong. So let's give a big blockchain report welcome to the multi-talented content creator, presenter, and powerhouse, Gemmy Wong, everybody. Gemmy, welcome to the show. We're super excited to have you, and so is our studio audience. How are you this morning? Thanks for joining.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Well, I love the sound effect, and that was a big intro. Like, finally, I can get to talk to you face to face. I mean, virtually, Hank, because like I watch so many of your shows. Like, you are killing this. Since I am the face of Roxom TV of Hong Kong, I feel like because of you, I've got big shoes to fill.
Oh, that's very kind of you to say. Well, you know, it certainly takes a village over here. There's a lot going behind the scenes that help prop me up. So, and I'm sure they're going to do the same for you. Not that you need it. You're doing great. I've seen your work, and you've had like a really interesting journey so far, Gemmy. Not your typical journey into the crypto scene. I mean, you studied accounting and finance at university. You worked in immigration consulting, and now you're in crypto media. What first got you into this world, and how did Bitcoin first land on your radar?
That's a really good question, because like back in like 2020, when I was still in immigration, I way out because a lot of people are moving out of Hong Kong, but there were some regulations. It's like a funny time period for Hong Kong because we got like a special passport as Hong Kong citizens. And then technically, it's much easier to immigrate to places like the UK and Canada after getting the passport. So I feel like, okay, probably the demand for immigration consultant would be less. So I just want to get out of the industry. And then funny thing is that I was actually sending out my CVs randomly to random companies that I sent a dozen out, like more than a dozen, like dozens out of my CVs to companies that I don't know, and just hitting the one click button. And then fortunately I sent to a crypto channel, but like back in the days, I didn't know crypto. I know nothing about Bitcoin. I mean, I've heard of Bitcoin, but I didn't know what that was. So I got a call from the crypto channel, and then I went on to interview. Actually, I applied for marketing strategist. And then like during the interview, I learned that it's a crypto company. And then I was like, in my mind, I was thinking, okay, what the hell is crypto? But like, I'll just like play along. I'll figure it out during the meeting, during the interview. And then, yeah, so when I initially applied for the marketing role, it's very funny because like during the interview, the person was like, oh, actually, we have another position in the company I think is more suitable for you. And then he brought on the hosting job. So I was like, my initial mind was that, oh, is that a scam? Like, is he trying to get money get money from me? Because there's so many scams like this in Hong Kong, like people being a so-called scout on the street, like street scout, and then okay, you have the face of being a supermodel, then you give me like $1 million, you're gonna become a supermodel, something like that. So I thought it was like those sort of scam. I was feeling really alerted when he brought up the idea. But when I actually like look at what's going on, I was like, okay, it actually makes a lot of sense because that channel is massive. They started running since 2017. It's called Box Mining, and then they have like more than 300,000 subscribers. Right. So when I joined, I was really overwhelmed because he expected me to do interviews with co-founders like from like different projects, and then I slightly pick up crypto, but like once you get down the rabbit hole, there's no coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. And what was that like for you? Because it seems like you kind of stumbled on crypto on accident. You didn't know what it was. You're like, is this about coffins? I don't know. At least that was my initial introduction to the space. What was your like moment that you kind of orange pilled yourself after being in it, where, you know, where that light bulb goes off and you realize that Bitcoin is actually a lot bigger than maybe you initially thought? What was that kind of like for you early on?
Well, honestly speaking, I pick up most of my knowledge from YouTube, actually, because yeah, I mean, it's a good platform. I learned what is blockchain like from day one of being the host, and then what is Bitcoin, and like honestly speaking, when I just learned about blockchain, I was really lost. I didn't know what I was reading. I was so ready to give up on day one, and then I got through to the Bitcoin section. I would say it's very eye-opening. I didn't know there are of course, because I study accounting and finance, I know the US printed a lot of money, and so as basically every single government around the world do that. But I didn't really dive into the topic and realize how big the issue would be, and how everything basically we're living on a scam, and fiat dollars are like a melting ice cube. So once I understood the idea, and then I understood mining, how Bitcoin is such an awesome system that it'll basically, like, if you people like try to attack the Bitcoin system, it like self protect itself. So like all these ideas, I find it really awesome. So once I kind of got that wake up call, learn about Bitcoin, and then I start learning about other crypto projects as well. And yeah, I would say from that moment, I learned about Bitcoin, learned about the US entire economy or the money system, how the money systems work. Then, yeah, there's no going back.
Well, it seems to have been, working in your favor pretty well, as you've built quite the name for yourself on YouTube, taking people on this journey of crypto discovery with you. I believe your handle there is Gem Crypto. So when you first started making gemcrypto.io, thank you. Now, Gemmy, when you first started making videos, you weren't coming into this space necessarily as an on-camera person, it sounds like. What gave you the initial confidence to put yourself out there in front of the camera and share your perspective, especially when it's an arena that you yourself are still just kind of getting acclimated to?
Yeah, that was a really good question because I was really overwhelmed, especially when you ask a newbie to interview co-founders about crypto projects that I just learned from YouTube a few days ago. So yeah, I wasn't really comfortable doing that. But back previously, the channel that I worked with, he was really willing to give me support. So I told him that maybe I could start with a teleprompter. I would do all the research. I'll write all the script. My scripting style is that I will put every single word, word by word in the script. So I'll just read out from the teleprompter. So I spend so much time doing that because when I write all the script, I do the research. I actually learn a lot in the process of when I do the script. So that's how I pick up. I started with the teleprompter, but slowly there's a teleprompter. I'm not sure if you can see. So it's on here on my right side. Yeah, I kind of slowly phase out. Right now, I don't really use much of teleprompter. I'll just hit the record button, go live stream.
Amazing. And you're taking all of this knowledge and this experience now into your new role, which I want to talk about, as you're stepping in as the anchor for Roxom TV Hong Kong in our studio that's launching there right now. I gotta know, when you think about what you want this channel to be, what's the feeling or the energy you hope people get when they tune in to see you and you're bringing all the latest Bitcoin news? What's your goal for the channel going forward?
Well, definitely educational wise, yet I do want to put in some sarcasm because that's my style. When I do live stream, I don't smile a lot. I will just look at the chart and do technical analysis, but I do a lot of sarcasm. So that's what I kind of want to give people the style when I do my show. And when Roxom approached me because they first approached me on Twitter, on X. So when I talked to the person, she told me that it's kind of creating the Bloomberg TV, but obviously Bloomberg focused on finance, and we are in Bitcoin only. It's very niche. So I found the idea very fascinating because Bloomberg has the Bloomberg terminal. Roxom has Roxom Exchange and also Roxom TV. So I really like the idea, and yeah, one day maybe we can take over Bloomberg. That's my goal, actually.
Let's hope. I think we're going for a January 6th type takeover of all of Bloomberg with Roxom stuff on the face painting. No one will get arrested for real. We'll all get pardoned. It'll be really fun. I'm excited for that. But as you know, so you are the third and final station for now in Roxom plan of taking over the world. We have here in San Francisco, we have Ione and Anton over in our London office, and now we have you in Hong Kong. Seeing as we already have the San Fran and the London offices established or studios established, how do you see the Hong Kong channel kind of standing out or owning it, adding its own flavor to the mix of things? What is that going to be for you? You said education. I know you also have a background, I believe it's in like singing, songwriting, and yoga? Are you gonna influence, put that in there somehow? What can we expect from your Hong Kong show?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of hobbies, but I kind of want to I do separate the crypto stuff from my hobbies. But like speaking of like the Hong Kong studio, there are many regulations coming out from Hong Kong, like my home city. And I have to say, maybe call me biased, but I'm really proud of what Hong Kong has been doing. We only like recent 1 or 2 years like pull a 180 on crypto stance. So back in 2021, I would say we're still quite against crypto. And if you go on to like the general public and tell people, oh, you're in crypto, people would think that you're trying to scam money out of my pocket. So, but like, I think like after 2024, Hong Kong government pulled a 180. Right now, we have like a license exchange. So there are like a dozen of license exchanges in Hong Kong. We have the Stablecoin Act, which is like even more comprehensive than the Genius Act in the US. And I think one of the reasons is that we trying to compete to be the real crypto hub in Asia, not the fake one like Singapore does. Maybe I'm biased. I don't know. Yeah, because like Singapore kind of took the title from us being the crypto hub of Asia, but a lot of crypto projects got scammed. So the talents moved from Hong Kong to Singapore until they find out the regulations was extremely strict. And then a lot of talents kind of like moved back to Hong Kong because like Hong Kong is very lenient. Like one thing that it amazed Singaporean when they come to Hong Kong is that we have a bunch of OTC on street. So like you can actually walk in with the power of cash to exchange and buy USDT or Bitcoin, no issue, while you don't see such thing in Singapore. So it's a funny story. Like when I was like showing around all the like places in Hong Kong to Singaporean, and they were like, wait, I kind of want to experiment and walk into the OTC if that actually works. I was like, yeah, go for it. And then they have so much fun.
Very cool. And, I wonder from your seat at the table, like crypto media in and of itself can feel heavy and technical, right? And I wonder, in an arena like Hong Kong, how do you plan to make the stories, both educational, we got to be providing value to people, but also, entertaining for your audience in some respect, because like Roxom isn't Bloomberg, and crypto kind of by its very nature seems to have this entertainment element built in. There's memes and all this goofy stuff that doesn't exist in traditional finance. So I know you have that yoga background, just hear me out. What about some kind of crypto morning show where we do yoga and bring our blood pressure down at the same time? I know with the charts and everything, our blood pressure starts going, our hearts are palpitating. Like, what's your plan? I want to know, like, how are you going to infuse Gemmy into this show? I'm super excited to learn about that.
Well, yeah, doing yoga, I think that will be an interesting twist to the show. I can think about that. But like one thing I've been doing for like, because I've been in crypto for 4.5 years, I wrote like quite a few songs. So I combined like crypto with sometimes Cantonese songs, Canton pop, we call it. So Cantonese pop. And then sometimes I do like English songs. So yeah, I talked to the Roxom team last week when they went to Hong Kong, and I brought up the hobby that I have because I like writing songs. Yeah. I kind of like before that I wanted to pursue as my professional, but I end up being crypto, which is even better. But if combining music and crypto is gonna be like God level, like I'll gonna bring so much happiness to my heart. So I brought up the idea to Roxom team. Maybe I could write like, I don't know, like a Bitcoin song for the Roxom TV show. That's going to be cool.
Yeah, Yeah, I love that. I almost think of like, I don't know if you're familiar with SNL here in the States. They do like funny songs about all sorts of things. I'm like, it'd be very cool to make educational songs about Bitcoin, about, you know, if you've got that gift. I certainly don't, but I'm glad we got somebody with talent on this network. It's certainly not me. And I mean, and that kind of speaks to the fact that, I mean, you've been building, you know, communities online through your previous company and YouTube and social media. How does it feel stepping into part of a bigger, like a big team now? I know you've done it before in your first endeavor, but you've been doing it by yourself with your YouTube channel as well. Are you excited about like Roxom and the whole team kind of supercharging, you know, what you've already been doing just to, you know, maybe even more of a global audience?
I'm super excited, I have to say, because like the launch party happened 2 weeks ago in Hong Kong. First of all, amazing venue. It's like one of the nicest places in Hong Kong. And I got to experience how it worked with an actually established team. Because like, okay, I work with like very prominent channel in the crypto space. Like they have like hundreds and thousands of subscribers throughout different social media platforms. But like, I would say like most often than not, I just feel like it's more like a one-man band. So I was managing everything. I did research, I did scripting, I did SEO, I did thumbnail, basically like everything. So when I actually come to Roxom, I feel like I never had such support like I have ever experienced in my entire life. Yeah, because I was really amazed at the launch party, how everyone is setting up the lighting. We have like professional team just for the lighting and then the camera. Like I was really amazed because like back in, I don't know, like even though they're a really big channel, they were just like, okay, just put a camera on the table, on your desk and you're good to roll. So I was really amazed. And when I have like, maybe, I don't know, like technical problem, then I really love how the team would like, they have different role and different person would try to help to make the entire product better, just to push it to the next level. So I really love the culture here and how everyone is so nice on Roxom.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're coming from, it seems like an environment where you're doing most of the content creation by yourself. Now you've got this whole team and this structured media environment moving forward. What excites you the most about that? What are you hoping to spend more of your time on now that you have this huge support system as opposed to before when you were wearing all of the hats? Are there certain stories you're hoping you can tell that maybe you couldn't before? Or what's the most exciting part of this new role for you?
I have to say, like, I took a lot of inspiration from you, Hank, because like I watched your shows and then I'm quite fascinated because like the whole structure wise and then how you cover the news and then you so smoothly to bring on a guest to talk about the topic, like dive in a little bit more just to give more perspectives to the audience. So like watching your show, like thinking back when I was just like starting out in my crypto journey, like watching your show, it kind of like gives me so much value. If I wish like I watched your show before, so I didn't have to make so many mistakes or spend so much time on certain stuff, like certain YouTube videos that are just a completely waste of time. So yeah, like I would say, like because I've been in crypto for a few years, so I have my format of doing a live stream. I usually like I do technical analysis and then macro news and then maybe some like crypto news. But watching your show, I kind of like, yeah, it gave me so much inspiration. I feel like there's so much I could do that I never really thought about that. And your show is like, I kind of want to be the next you in Hong Kong, in other words.
Oh, we don't need another me. Anything but another me. I think I can hear people echoing that from all over the world. world. But yeah, you know, that's kind of the beautiful part about being part of a bigger team. Like, this show would never be what it is and what we're hoping it'll be without, there's so, like, my main man, Victor, our producer of the show, like, he makes all of this thing look very real and professional. Gaston, our technical director, and then you have the whole team behind the scenes that sets up the studio and like everything. So we're super excited for you to just focus on the stories in your hosting and let our incredible team and the team that you'll be working with specifically out of the Hong Kong studio kind of fill out the rest for you and really polish it up. They make a nice product here. They do a really good job. And now that you have this really new exciting platform that you'll be working with and working on, who are you first excited? Who would be your dream guest to bring on your show? If we could map out the first one, and you can't say Michael Saylor. Everybody says Michael Saylor. So who is your first guest on your new show at Roxom? Who would you choose if it could be anybody? I'll put in a good word.
Lynn Alden.
Lynn Alden. Okay, that's a good one. Why Lynn Alden specifically?
Because I think I watch her episodes almost every single day on YouTube, and I love her perspectives. I'm planning on even getting the book. I haven't, which I think that part I suck. I should really get her book. But because like I watch her show almost every single day on YouTube, I learned so much about macro. Like I would say like most of my macro knowledge I learned from her, especially in the beginning. Yeah, I would say Lynn Alden for sure.
Very cool. And yeah, Lynn, I mean, Lynn's obviously a big name in the space and in Hong Kong and what is supposed to be the crypto hub of Asia. I feel like you have an interesting challenge, right? Because the audiences there seem to be unique in a mix of very advanced traders, and then you have a lot of complete beginners. How are you planning to kind of strike that balance in your coverage to kind of give something for people that have already been there, but then also making it accessible enough for people that are still dipping their toes into the orange waters where they feel comfortable of going to you for, you know, programming as well? What's your plan for that?
I think maybe we could like switch to like separate into different shows, like one for more beginner, another one for a little bit more advanced, like doing the chart analysis or on-chain analysis or whatnot.
Yeah.
But like for beginner, especially in Hong Kong, because like Hong Kong people, they love money. In other words, they love money to the point that there's a phrase. So I'm not sure if you know, like during Chinese New Year, we always say 恭喜发财 or 恭喜发财 in Mandarin. So that actually means like hope you get rich. But like everyone is saying like so casually during Chinese New Year, like everyone just like say to, okay, I hope you get rich. Yeah, so it's like deeply like inherited in our culture, I would say. So from my personal experience, bringing on like new joiners to the crypto space, like I always like lead with the return. So I was like, okay, look at this chart. Like, okay, Bitcoin is outperforming S&P 500 by, okay, how much? Something like that. And usually like, it's more like a pickup line. And then once they heard that pickup line, they'll get really intrigued. And then they will, yeah, then they will be like very intrigued to learn more, and then they even would send me some of your videos so they could dive deeper into topics.
I love that. That's so good. Hope you get rich. What a nice place. Everyone's just wishing you to get rich all the time. It actually reminds me of the South. The first time I ever went to the South, the southern states of the United States, I was on like a walk through the woods, and I was just saying hello to somebody. I was like, hey, how's it going? And they were like, hey, hope you win the lottery. And I was like, what? People are so nice here. And apparently everyone's doing that in Hong Kong already, which is great. I need to move there. Sounds much better. And, you know, as you're approaching this new endeavor, you know, starting a new channel is a huge challenge. We've dealt with it now for about 9 months. It's fun, but like I said, challenging. So far, what's been the most surprising part of the launch process for you and the team as you get Hong Kong, you know, up to speed for, you know, broadcast?
Like the biggest surprise from Roxom, you mean?
Yeah, like what's been the surprise of this journey? You said you thought the party went really well. Like, have there been elements that you weren't expecting as you're starting to put everything together for your own, days worth of programming? Like that's maybe been different than what you've encountered before. I know you have got the team now backing you. That's been a big help. What about like the production side of things? Has any of that, as you've been getting started, been a surprise to you in any way? Maybe more complicated, less complicated than you anticipated?
Yeah, the production, I would say, really did overwhelm me because, okay, I went to the studio for the first time 2 weeks ago with the team, and it was like an empty office, like there's nothing there.
Yeah.
And then the team was showing me, okay, the idea of setting up the whole studio. Oh, by the way, it's like a really big studio, and we mostly just sharing like between me and my producer. So yeah, we gotta get so much space, which I love. We got like a really nice view, ocean view, skyscrapers, mountain view. So absolutely amazing. So yeah, when I was inside that empty office, and then they were telling me all the idea, okay, we're gonna have like a curved TV. Because I was like, okay, curved TV. I don't think I've actually seen that in my entire life, but I was just like picturing what it looks like. And then another team member told me that I need to wear like an earphone, the one you have right now.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what is that for? Like, why would she give me an earphone? Because I usually I do live stream, I do everything on my own. I was like, wait, so the producer need to tell me something? Like, why do you need to tell me? Like, I've got everything prepared. Because I usually do one man band. That's one thing I like the support, but at the same time, because I've been basically alone doing content all the time, I'm very used to my own flow. I do all the content. I can talk on my own for more than an hour for like some crypto projects. So that's something I feel like I need to adjust and really care about other team members as well. That's something I'm learning.
Yeah, absolutely. It takes a little bit of time. I know when my producer Victor is always talking to me in my earphone, at least when we initially got started and I was getting used to it, it always made me feel like I was Mariah Carey or something, like very important. I'm like, oh, don't worry, darling, I'll be ready in a minute. Like it takes some time when you've done stuff by yourself or you haven't done stuff like this in a minute. So I definitely understand. And as being in Hong Kong, I don't know what the temperature there is in terms of the Bitcoin ecosystem like you do. When someone in Hong Kong were to ask you today, Gemmy, why should I care about Bitcoin? What are you telling them right now based on what the ecosystem is kind of like over where you are in Hong Kong?
Kind of circle back to the Hong Kong culture because we care about money. I'm always going to lead with the monetary side of things because that's always going to make Hong Kong people very intrigued. And because, when you talk about the educational side, it's great, but most of the time they pretend they're listening where their brain just like shut off. Right. So if you lead with that, like the monetary side, the return, they will actually listen to what you say instead of like, okay, the US is printing a lot of money and like fiat is a melting cube. Like we know that, but I feel like it's not like I wouldn't use that as a pickup line. Okay, I would just tell them, okay, the institutions are getting in. And then right now, Bitcoin is sitting at number 7 or in terms of the market cap and the whole world asset. So number 1 is gold. And then gold is like, is the traditional gold, but Bitcoin is the digital version of gold. So if we approach gold value, it's going to be like $1.1 million per BTC. So that is like a 10x return for you. So like once they heard that 10x, they will feel really intrigued. Okay, like send me the videos. That's all we need to tell Hong Kong people.
Oh, wow. So everyone's chasing that high alpha play in Hong Kong, it sounds like. If I ever go, it sounds like every conversation I just need to open up with, did you know people are making so much money on that whole Bitcoin thing? And then people will actually listen to me. That's good to know. And what are the young people in Asia like right now in terms of being open to Bitcoin? Or do you find there's more acceptance or readiness to accept Bitcoin than people in the West, or is it just kind of a different ecosystem there still than we have here in the United States?
So younger people in Hong Kong definitely more open-minded. Our like older demographics still skeptical when it comes to crypto, especially what happened in Hong Kong just 2 years ago. We have like a massive scam exchange, basically FTX, but a Hong Kong version. Like FTX was really scammy, but like the Hong Kong version is like even scammier. It took the FTX level even higher, like one tier higher. So yeah, like because of the Hong Kong exchange crash down, it kind of like flushed out and people got even more skeptical, especially from older demographics. So I remember back in 2023, I got a text from my mom, and then because she knows that I've been in crypto for quite some time, but she read the news about the local exchange in Hong Kong crashed down and being the massive scam in the entire Hong Kong history. So my mom told me, was like, she used a really serious tone and sent me the audio on WhatsApp. She was like, maybe it's time that you should consider like leaving crypto for good, changing your career. But I took it as a buying signal. So I bought so much crypto, and because of my mom, I'm doing fine because of that. Like, I
I'm not
usually
listening to my mom. I'm doing great. Every parent loves to hear that.
I know, right?
I'm sure she loves you, Mom. We're just joking.
Yeah, but because we do. I personally, I use my family as a contrarian indicator, like how the public is feeling about certain asset. And if there's like so much fear from the public, like general sentiment, it's probably a good time to buy.
I think you're right. What is it Buffett always says? He's like, when the blood in the streets, right? Like you should be buying, or yeah, it sounds like that. But apparently your parents are the canary in the coal mine. That's fun. Thanks, Mom. So Gemmy, you're starting this new endeavor at Roxom. You're excited. You got a whole team supporting you. These are exciting times indeed. So 5 years from now, what are you hoping becomes of this whole great experiment that is Roxom TV? Where do you think things are going to be, and where do you think Bitcoin is going to be 5 years from now? What does your vision for the next 5 years look like?
Because I would say I'm more like a spontaneous type of person. If you ask me like 5 years, honestly, I have no idea, if I'm being completely honest. I would think about next step, but like, yeah, maybe tomorrow. I haven't got much plan about tomorrow neither. Yeah, that is my MBTI. That's how I work. But in terms of Bitcoin, I do have more idea compared to my personal growth. Bitcoin, like I'm sure in 5 years, I would say Bitcoin gonna reach $1 million. Yeah, 5 years. I would say, okay, give it 10 years. 10 years, $1 million. For year end 2025, I would say I'm kind of still vibing with the 4-year cycle. Like I think the 4-year cycle is still intact. I know people say this cycle is different, but we had it before. Okay, people say, oh, this cycle is different because we have DeFi, but okay, guess we know how that turns out, right? So yeah, I'm still eyeing Q4, like end of year of 2025. We're gonna break new all-time high. From the chart, it looks like it's going to be 200K, but like I do want to be more conservative, so I'm eyeing 180K. As for 5 years, yeah, I do expect that Bitcoin will reach 1 million in 10 years, so that will be 2035. So 2030, then maybe give it like a half, so 500K.
So a lot to look forward to when it comes to Bitcoin price and more specifically your show. So before we let you go this morning, Gemmy, really quick, give us a little insight. When are you guys launching? When can we expect the show to start? When will it be on? The world is waiting. We need answers. Tell us what we can expect here in the upcoming weeks and months from you and the team at Hong Kong.
Yeah, so I'm gonna start a remote show from 5 p.m. Hong Kong time to 6 p.m. Hong Kong time. So that means 5 a.m. Eastern time. So if you guys want to see my face first thing in the morning, make sure you subscribe to Roxom. So I'm going to do the remote show first. And then once the studio is ready, then we are thinking mid-September or late September, because getting the Curve TV apparently is taking a lot of time. So yeah, hopefully you guys will see me in a new studio in late September.
Amazing, amazing. Well, I can't wait to get up at 2 a.m. every morning to watch them. I'm up at 4 anyway, so what's another 2 hours? So that's incredible, Gemmy. We are so excited to have you as part of the Roxom family. And before we let you go, I'm sure there are plenty of people in our audience that are eagerly anticipating and awaiting your arrival to the Roxom airwaves. But if they can't wait until they actually see you on air, what's the best place for them to check out what you're up to and to get more info on you and your own, Bitcoin endeavors on the YouTubes and Twitters, wherever? Where can I send them?
So my YouTube channel is called Gem Crypto, and then you can, if you want more updates from me, you can find me on Instagram, on Twitter. Although, because my Twitter recently got hacked, literally just happened a few days ago. So I opened a new account. So make sure you find my handle as GemCrypto_IO instead of Gem Crypto, because that is the old hacked account.
Oh man, well, I'm sorry about the hack, but I'm very happy that we have you as part of the team, Gemmy. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I appreciate you coming in to join us this morning. I know it's super late your time, so why don't you get some rest? And thank you though so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I can't wait to see your show.
Yeah, can't wait to have you as my guest as well, but I guess you're gonna have to wake up even earlier.
I pretty much owe you at this point, so I'll have to return the favor. I'm looking forward to it. Gemmy, it's been a pleasure, and we hope to have you back on the Blockchain Report real soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Cheers, pleasure. All right, we're taking a break, but when we're back, more Blockchain Report, so stay tuned. More coming up right after this. All right, and we're back, and Gemmy, wasn't she great? Make sure to check out her show. It just debuted this morning, so it's on early U.S. hours, but you, of course, can check it out on our Roxom TV YouTube and Rumble pages. We'll have it there for you as well. All right, we got one more story to wrap things up today, and we're talking, of course, about Cantor Fitzgerald. They just launched the Gold Protected Bitcoin Fund. It's a 5-year structured product that basically says, yes, Bitcoin's scary, but don't worry, Daddy Gold will hold your hand. Investors get exposure to 45% of Bitcoin's upside over 5 years. But if Bitcoin crashes, the gold portion steps in to protect 100% of the original investment. Bill Ferry, Cantor's global head of asset management, called it capturing Bitcoin's upside while gold provides a safety net. Or in other words, you can finally stack sats without your financial advisor having a heart attack. The timing? Kind of perfect. Bitcoin is currently sitting around 114K, up 20% year to date, recovering 4%, 5% just this week, and eyeing another run at 124K. ETFs cracked the door in 2024. Treasury firms like Strategy, well, they blew it open. And now, this, a hybrid product for investors who want exposure to Bitcoin but still sleep with a gold bar under their pillow. It's Bitcoin with a seatbelt, or if you prefer, training wheels that glitter. Either way, it's another gateway drug for traditional money, and every time Wall Street finds a new way to sneak Bitcoin into a portfolio, the long-term price floor inches even higher. All right, it's time for a little bullish, bearish, or BS. Let's run the stinger and wrap up today's show and see how things are faring for Bitcoin. All right, let's recap today's top stories and see how things are looking. First up, we got Japan's Meta Planet is selling 385 million new shares to raise $1.4 billion, most of which will go straight into buying more Bitcoin. They already hold over 20,000 BTC, and this round could boost that to more than 32,000. Oh, of course, I'm calling bullish on this. I mean, a public company dropping nearly $1.5 billion into Bitcoin is basically price support on steroids. Sure, their stock dipped on dilution, but long term, this locks up a fat chunk of supply and makes the number go up machine hum a little louder. So I'm calling bullish on that one. Next up, we got a European startup literally named TREASURY, raised 147 million bucks, backed by the Winklevi twins and other Bitcoin VCs. Their entire model is buy Bitcoin, call it innovation, and repeat. I'm calling bullish on this too, baby. I mean, this is copycat behavior, but in the best possible way, because every copycat still has to buy actual Bitcoin. So whether they succeed or flop, the demand pressure certainly helps the price. And the fact that Europe is birthing its own strategy-style firms shows that global corporate FOMO is very, very real. I mean, if you're cloning Sailor, you're buying Bitcoin, and that, my friends, is bullish news. So I'm bullish on that. 2 bullish, 0 bearish, 0 BS. Can we get the clean sweep today? Last up, we had Cantor Fitzgerald just dropped a structured product that gives investors 45% of Bitcoin's upside with gold as a safety net if things go south. It's basically Bitcoin with trading wheels for TradFi boomers. And I'm calling bullish on this one because this is Wall Street handing normies a starter pack for BTC exposure. Every time a legacy firm lowers the barrier for risk-averse capital, it widens the funnel of money flowing into BTC. Today, it's gold-protected funds. Tomorrow, it's pure, unfiltered Bitcoin, baby. So I'm bullish on that. So today's scorecard, 3 bullish, 0 bearish, 0 BS. So the scoreboard is pretty clear today. Every story points in the same direction. That is up and to the right. Corporates are stacking, Europe's cloning Sailor, and Wall Street is dressing Bitcoin up in gold training wheels. Or in other words, demand's up, supply's tight, and the price floor keeps inching higher. So today is a bullish day all the way, baby, and I'm busting out the money gun and it's working. As always, thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Blockchain Report. If you haven't already, do me and yourself a solid and make sure to like, follow, and subscribe to Roxom TV and yours truly at Hank at Roxom TV on every platform that matters. And we'll be back tomorrow, Thursday, for another episode packed of crypto chaos and blockchain bedlam right here on the Blockchain Report. Until then, stay safe, huddle strong, and see you guys and gals tomorrow.
Security matters. Zappo Bank, the only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
So, tell us about your furry friend here.